Hello everyone, welcome back to Gnippets. My name is Germ, and today I wanted to talk about feelings. I've been reading a lot and experiencing a lot of things recently, and I think I have somewhat of a healthy relationships with my ability to feel things, but there's one emotion that I avoid like the plague, and that emotion is embarrassment. It's the one emotion that I've really struggled to understand because emotions are not like good or bad, right? A happy is not necessarily a good emotion, and sad isn't necessarily a bad emotion. It's about like how they're used within the context. It's the same thing with anger or jealousy or pride or anything like that, right? Where you're taught happy is good, happy is happy, but like let's say, if if you get into a car crash and you're happy, it's like not like a good thing, kind of. It's like weird. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe you had an insurance thing on the car. I mean, I don't want to look too much into it. Like, and the idea is like, oh, if you ask a girl out and she says yes, you shouldn't be sad, right? Those are kind of inappropriate uses of those emotions. And in the same case, if someone does something to anger you, you are correct to be angry. But I find it, or maybe on a happier note, I found it very difficult to understand when embarrassment is appropriate. Embarrassment is, it's embarrassing, If your friends ever see your mom, like, kissing you on the cheek or something, or maybe they're looking at, like, old pictures from when you were a kid, messing around, wearing, like, a feather boa or something. It's kind of embarrassing. And I've more recently appreciated embarrassment because whenever I look back at the embarrassing things of my life, I'm only embarrassed by the things that are a true reflection of me. Right, so I sometimes I get secondhand embarrassment from when I see people cry in public, or get really angry in public, or are really joyous in public and are popping off and stuff. In my mind, embarrassment is kind of a negative emotion, and I don't necessarily like the fact that I view these things, which are not necessarily negative, and I view them as negative. I view them as embarrassing when, to that person, in that situation, it's a almost unstoppable action. They're doing it instinctually. And I used to get embarrassed a lot more when I was younger, and I don't get embarrassed as much anymore now that I'm older because I'm a lot more careful. I think there is a possibility, a pretty likely possibility, that when I was younger and I would do things that were embarrassing, the reason I have such a negative connotation is I would have these moments. I find that embarrassment flares up in me the most is when I'm the most passionate about something, the most excited, the most invested, and then it kind of ends up backfiring. Or, maybe I'm doing something that nobody else is meant to see, and someone sees it, and I get owned for it. And so it's entirely possible that I've been embarrassed so many times, that I've been clowned on so many times, that I just kind of shy away from it. I hide away inside a little box. But I think another factor of this is a lot of my day-to-day can be heavily determined by the media that I'm ingesting. And when I was younger, I used to watch a lot of shows about like tortured geniuses. Think like House MD, BoJack Horseman. I never got into it, but Rick and Morty and the like. I think that plays a significant role because I think they also do not like embarrassment. These characters' embarrassment is almost solely tied to compassion, kindness, empathy. These characters are almost never embarrassed by all the negative aspects in their life. When you look at House and you look at BoJack Horseman and you look at Rick from Rick and Morty, these characters are terrible people and they do terrible things every episode. And they're called out on their terrible stuff, and they're never embarrassed by the terrible stuff. They're almost only ever embarrassed when they have to genuinely be emotional. And so I guess the idea is that kids taught me to not make mistakes, and I guess TV shows taught me to not be vulnerable.